Do you think a stay put policy is fit for purpose in the modern world now?
Yeah, so it's a difficult one to say yes or no to. There's obviously many facets to it. Stay put obviously is from 1962, so it's quite an antiquated perspective on having in place, in my view. But it's the lack of awareness of what that actually means. I know Russ went into a bit more detail there behind it and why that's in place. From our perspective, I work with clients daily who say we've had a stay put policy in place, and we immediately ask, is that being signed off? No. So if anything was to ever happen, and heaven forbid it does, they've got nothing to stand on. There's nobody backing them up with that. So for me, if stay put policy is to be enforced, people need to understand and be educated in actually what that means and what they need to be compliant with the stay put policy. I think in high-rise buildings, as Russ says, social media, the advent of WhatsApp groups, people communicating more, realistically human behaviour, pedestrian dynamics, they're going to leave. They're not going to hang around because they don't know why they've got the stay put policy. They just think, it's a burning building, I want to leave. And that's where I kind of land.
Yeah, you're really talking about an education process there of saying why the policy should or shouldn't be used. I will come to Russ in a moment, but actually, Bob, I want to take your take first on stay put, because you can look at it from both sides. Obviously, being ex-fire and rescue service, you'll have a view, but obviously you now run your own risk assessment and consultancy business as well, don't you? So I think your take on this would be quite interesting. Do you think it's fit for purpose, stay put?
Well, I got to go back to the design of the buildings. The whole point of stay put was the building would be safe and built to the standards. So if the fire wasn't in your property, you could stay put and you'd be protected. You had that 60-minute protection or whatever it was. So it was fit for purpose, and it still is if the building is designed and built to the appropriate standards. It all links back to how you build and what the regulations are to build to that standard. Obviously, you get a major fire like Grenfell, and that should then inform the standards for the future. But up until then, it was always accepted that stay put was the right design for things like apartments and flats. There was nothing to say in the stay put policy that you had to stay put. You know, you could still get out of your apartment if you smell smoke, if you get somebody on your WhatsApp say I've got a fire, and people decide to go out, then that's their decision. It's human behaviour again. So there is a bind here, and I understand that as well, that there are various different sides. You can't take into account everybody's human behaviour. You can't take into account how the building's built or whatever. And also the fire and rescue service, because of course the whole argument about peeps and evacuation and the fire brigades and fire rescue services role in it, always when I was in the fire and rescue service, you know, if we turned up to a job, no matter how big it was, I'm sure Russ is the same, we helped evacuate. That was my decision as an officer in charge when I turned up, do we evacuate this or not? So it was down to me to do that, or whether this is okay to stay put. So the operational decisions are still with the fire and rescue service. The idea that fire and rescue services suddenly did not help evacuate, nothing to do with it. They might rescue you when they turn up. That came in under the fire safety order, because the fire safety order said the responsible person might have a plan and has to have an emergency plan. It doesn't say in the fire safety order that the fire brigade should turn up, but they're not going to help you evacuate. It doesn't say that anywhere. We just assume it.